How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I've got, I believe it's actually a mission, not one of the contracts. It's called Repair Crisis. It's a pretty simple one. I've got to take 4 vehicle spare parts, whatever it is, over to a location kind of on the right-hand side of the map. I'm going to drive the normal way, kind of up the left-hand side, to this warehouse again. It doesn't really bother me because it's a chance to take different vehicles kind of along the same route to see how they do. And then, yeah, you've got like this little station over here. I believe there's a mission you can get. Oh, in fact, yeah, it's probably this mission. It's just nice to have like a fuel station. Once you've done this, that's part of the reason why I was doing it. As you can see in the rewards, yeah, you unlock it then as a fuel station. And already I've been past it a couple of times in videos, and just kind of autopilot mode, it just strikes me as, yeah, you should be able to get fuel from there. So I keep like trying to pull in and press square and all sorts, trying to get fuel. So yeah, the fact that it'll finally be a fuel station is pretty handy. See how many more times I can save fuel. Yeah, when you set off, there's always like a patch of whatever's going on, super mud or something around. Like as you leave the garage, you can't really avoid it. It kind of drops you straight into it. But yeah, once you get going for this mission, I decided to try the Bandit. I was kind of flicking through, and an hour, and about which vehicle should I take. I preferably wanted something that is at least in the high range set of gears rather than like say the advanced special and stuff, just because I knew for the most part I should at least be able to sit in high and it'll get the majority of the mission, or at least like right to the top. I'm going to need a trailer for lots of cargo, but that warehouse at the top, which I'm glad they've done it to be honest, you can get, there's a trailer store there, so I don't have to drag a ramped flatbed all the way with me, which it probably wouldn't make the world of difference, but yeah, you know what it's like. I'm not a fan of that trailer. He's got that horse chilling on the side of the road there. Seen him, but it's like delayed reaction to give him the old horn, of course. Yeah, again with this section, like gets bogged down, and you're best off just trying to sort of skirt along the edge of the road. But yeah, the Bandit, I've not really used it that much for quite a while. I wasn't in the end that much of a fan of it on, was it season 2, Flooded Foothills and all that when we got it. Main reason was it was fairly easy to tip, and more importantly it was a right pain in the arse to get back to its wheels, because instead of just tipping back to its wheels it would drag everywhere sideways. But I did drive it for some reason like a couple of months ago or whatever, and it might have even been on like one of the live streams, and yeah, I was kind of pleasantly surprised with it. It seems to motor along a bit better than usual. It's got the custom muds, which I like in terms of like they sit wider, yeah, and you know, you're less likely to tip. But interestingly, you see there where I hit that bump, look at the crane, it's snapped over to the right and it's now hooked on the roof rack. And then literally that, because of that, it made me tip over, and even as I spin the camera around now, you can see the crane is still like locked over to the side where it's sort of wedged on the roof rack. And that was a pretty big issue with this truck back in the day, is the amount of chassis flex between like the cab and the back of the truck is pretty extreme, and it can kind of bounce, and it, yeah, because it's kind of springing against each other, it inevitably, it's only usually a matter of time until you just hit a terrain, you know, the right or wrong way really, where it's going to spring and sort of exaggerate the amount you're already tipping over and all the rest of it. I mean there, because the crane got stuck, it was making the rear of the chassis lean over. And yeah, all things considered, when I'm actually upright on my wheels, like, it's not really much of a hill going on here as in tipping to the right, but it made me go. So yeah, fortunately got a goddamn horse on me, so he got out of there. I was pulling it up the hill. I edited various bits of this because, long story short, I left bits in to show you, but a lot of the times when you tow this vehicle, as I said, it just drags sideways. It won't tip back to its wheels. So yeah, I'm just kind of sitting there with the loaf, keep winching it and all sorts, but that's it, you just keep dragging it up and down the hill and all sorts. I reversed into it there. You can see it kind of tipped, but then it over tipped. Got it to go again. It's not that difficult to get to go over on its roofs. Some vehicles, for whatever reason, like they don't like, well, they'll tip to their side, but they really don't like rolling over onto their roof to then get over to the other side. This one, thankfully, yeah, it's not too bad, but as you can see, again, it tends to just drag along rather than actually tipping. And then I think this is the bit here, I got it sort of wedged on that tree. When it does tip, I even got the loaf there, so it sort of bounced into the loaf, and it's still... The weird thing, it didn't really shove the loaf out the way, it just kind of kept rolling, and then, yeah, sort of tucked the sideboard in behind him. And it tipped over again, so I was back here for a bit more winching. And you can see, weight-wise and all the rest of it, now I have got, because I've got the crane on, every now and then the crane legs kind of sort of dig into the floor. With this game, if you're too far away when you're winching and that, it just kind of locks you in place, and because, yeah, the crane leg sticks into the floor, it'll just, like, you can't really drag yourself along very well. But if you're close enough to the vehicle, yeah, as you can see, like, the loaf can move it, it's just, it really does not like, because even once you start getting it tipped back to its wheels, like there, you could see the front of the cab was flexing a lot more than, like, say, the sideboard and everything was. But then when its wheels touch the floor, it automatically drives forward, but I can't turn the engine off because the engine's already off because the truck's tipped. So in the end, yeah, I was like, solid, go for it, loaf. Just reversed into it, shoved it over that way. Thankfully got the crane, popping the loaf back in, but then, yeah, as you can see, I kind of almost tipped over that way to the right. And then, yeah, it sort of landed back on its wheels, tipped straight over the other way. And in a way, I'm glad that I sort of got the footage of this, because it was basically when I set off, it was kind of like, well, yeah, this is exactly why I used to avoid the vehicle. I'd rather take something that just takes 10 seconds to tip back to its wheels. I mean, there's probably a couple of minutes here, like, but if you include the editing as well, probably talking 5 or 10 minutes, which, again, it's not the end of the world. I wouldn't mind doing a 5 or 10 minute rescue if I had a load of cargo and all sorts, you know, like everything packed on and all the rest of it, and you had a bit of a bad crash. But the fact that all I did was hit a little bump, the chassis flexed so much that the crane got stuck on the side of the cab, and that's what made me tip. And then now it's like just a complete troll trying to get its back to its wheels. Is, yeah, just sort of, it's one of them where it's just the I don't know, not a very polished vehicle in that sense, and that's what's making you have to do all this. And it's like, yeah, it's sort of, it gets less fun doing rescues when it's not really you that caused the crash, it's just some kind of particularly shabby game mechanics going on with certain things. Why the chassis flex is so intense on this, I'm not really sure, because like every other vehicle works in the same way. It's got a cab, it's got the sideboard and that, if you put that on, and yeah, I can't think of any other vehicle that really has like proper legitimate chassis flex, really, as this one's insane for it. So yeah, thankfully Loaf's goddamn professional. Not only did he tip it back to his wheels for God knows about the 4th or 5th time, but yeah, it couldn't handle lifting the loaf. To be fair, the actual Bandit crane could lift the loaf, and I probably could have put the crane legs out. But yeah, it tipped, so the loaf had to do his job, jumped into the sideboard himself. So we'll set off and try again. Like I say, other than that, like stuff like that happening, yeah, there's certain characteristics of this vehicle I do like, but I mean, one, I suppose, for example, it's pretty easy to get into high, and it's relatively lenient on letting you stay in high. Not the most, not as up to the level of like the Phoenix and stuff, but yeah, it doesn't keep dropping out of high every 2 seconds, or certainly not when you're in this setup. Like, possibly a different story on various terrain when you've got a trailer full of cargo and all the rest of it, but yeah, just as like your own little truck driving around, it's certainly got enough juice to it. And the chained, I don't know why, I didn't check. I've got a funny feeling the chained on this aren't muds. I could be wrong on that, but it'd be interesting if they aren't, actually, because I think most of the Russian stuff has muds. Someone was just mentioning about like chained versus muds in the comments the other day, and I was just saying to them that I prefer chained, but one thing I will say is I tend to drive the Russian trucks because they get mud tyres, and the chained on those trucks are chained versions of the mud tyres. And I've said it before, but for those that haven't seen it when I said it back in the day, as a I've sort of got a feeling in this game that the characteristics of the chain tyres revert back to the mud statistics, as they've obviously just copied and pasted a mud tyre over to the chain section and then put a chain over it, and then in theory they've changed the stats, but something tells me in various situations it sort of reverts back to what the muds are doing, but you also still have these little bonuses from chain, like they appear to sort of add little notches to the wheel, so they climb up ledges better, and yeah, you know, you can grip on icy roads and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just remember that even though I do like the custom mods anyway, I generally put them on vehicles if I can. I'm sure the chained on this are crap. And yeah, again, that's what I was sort of saying, is a lot of the American vehicles, well, I was going to say all, apologies, I just clipped the mic there, they do like, is it the off-roads or the all-terrain or whatever, it's that version of chained, which I don't find to be as good. But then I was thinking about it earlier, hasn't the, what's it called, the twin steer, that's got the mud version of the chained. I'm certain it has. Even, you know, like the normal in-game one, not Fox's Twice twin steer. And yeah, like I say, most American trucks, but I rarely drive American trucks really. When I was thinking about it, it's like I drive the Zix quite a bit, the 605R, Dolphin, the Phoenix, the Tigers, the Vorons. The vast majority, like the twin steer is probably one of the few that is an American truck that I do drive, but in and of itself is because it doesn't let you have a lot of, well, it doesn't let you have trailers and certain configurations. Yeah, you have to leave that quite a lot. Sorry, my phone, see what I like. It's still on the sofa and yet it beeps every fucking 10 seconds moaning about the charger. I just did a little edit there just to speed it up, but I came into the yard, obviously I had to go around the back of the yard, connect to the generator to turn it on, and then I got a fuel trailer from the trailer store, refilled myself and fixed myself and refueled the generator, and then went and bought a ramp flatbed and came round. And these vehicle spare parts to build, they were 250 fuel each from the you know, like, cost you that much out of the generator. So the chances are by now, if you haven't refueled the generator, you'll need to on this mission anyway. I'm only mentioning it because you'll end up going around the back to probably turn the generator on and then grab a ramp flatbed, and then you'll go around and realise that you need 1,000 fuel basically to build this cargo. And yeah, if you've been using the generator for other previous missions, which you most likely have, unless you did like deliver the generator and then did this mission next, then yeah, just remember to quickly grab like a maintenance trailer or whatever and just top the generator up while you're around there. And then yeah, now you can see, now I've got the trailer and it's got the 4 cargo on. I'm still able to get in high in certain places, but it's a little bit easier to sort of throw in the towel and tap out. But to be fair, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not a terrible vehicle. It's one of them again where it's not bad in any way. Well, actually, I'll take that. That's a bad way of phrasing it, because it is pretty bad in some ways, like tipping and not being able to tip back. But it's decent enough. It doesn't really stress me out when I'm driving along. Obviously, the tipping thing, there's a slight bit of unluckiness, but obviously that amount of chassis flex, it's just more of a matter of time until that's going to happen. It's done it to me before as well. It's not like that's the first time. I have managed to make the crane get stuck on the side of the roof rack, which in theory, I suppose, well, you could either not bring the crane, that'd help it not catch. You could not bring the roof rack, but now you're missing out on fuel and repair points, and the fuel tank on this is 150. So if you thought the Dolphin's fuel tank was bad, this one's pretty horrific. Now when I get to this point, every time I've driven on this road, or certainly in videos, yeah, I have driven down actually this way once when, oh yeah, it was when it didn't save the video footage when I was exploring the map, that was it. Yeah, but coming back this way, I've never done like a mission or anything coming this way. You can see the trailer got hooked on the rock over the other side, and this thing just absolutely didn't have the guts at all to even remotely move the trailer. Like, it was just beached and stuck, which, within reason, is fair enough. The trailer is a complete twat, so it's not completely on the Bandit. And then yeah, just as I was going through here, it started tipping again. It's a bit of an awkward rock that I'm just sort of going past now. So yeah, goddamn horse, he had to get out of it again. You can see there, just instead of the vehicle tipping, it just keeps dragging towards me. And this is what you end up doing, hence why I was just editing it a lot, because yeah, you're driving around to one side of it, dragging it along, it tends to scrape along until you'll hit a bump, or it's now, you know, wedged up against a tree or whatever. You go back round to the other side and drag it back that way. But yeah, you see here, like, sent the loaf in, stuck a winch on this trailer, and I know he is a goddamn beast, but it was ridiculously easy to move this trailer with a loaf. Dug himself a little loaf hole, and he's good to go. Of course, the trailer, thankfully there, I must have saved it by like a couple of degrees. It was clearly about to tip, but because I quickly disconnected the winch, it kind of did the physics thing where it locks it in place. So I was at least able to just nip round here. I want the winch in the middle. It's under that yellow square at the top of the middle of the screen. Those yellow squares can get in the way quite a lot. They sit right on the top of single cargo, so you can never see if your winch point is on that point or not. Yeah, stuck a winch on the side though, just give it a little winch. It kind of moved forward as well, which was quite nice, but yeah, just to stop it tipping over. And then I had to go back and do the old reverse trick on this again. I mean, again, get yourself a loaf. This mission would have been like double, triple, quadruple screwed if I didn't bring a loaf. Give the crane another go, but I just thought this time I'll quickly stick the crane legs out. You can see that they barely stick out. It was enough. Like I said, the old loaf. He's weightless until he needs to apply that weight. Originally, I'm sure here I tried to do like the crane as a roll cage, but I was nearly gonna, but I just thought in the end, one, this vehicle was already a little bit on the tippish side, so I may as well just recover it. But I also thought, if I do tip over, there's an extremely high chance the Bandit isn't going to get itself out of it, so I'm going to have to get the loaf out of it, and then at that point, yeah, I need to get out the sideboard, so locking me in with a crane isn't really going to help too much. Plus, I suppose these days you can just pack the loaf into the truck. Whereas, yeah, I was just going to say, like, back a year ago or whatever, that wasn't an option, hence why the old crane roll cage was pretty handy. And yeah, almost tipped again, which I didn't really look, but had I tipped I would have definitely gone for the quit and reload method at this point, just because otherwise, like, yay, I get to spend another, who knows, minute to half an hour trying to flip a truck that should take more like 5 seconds to do so. At least it was quite lenient there, attaching the trailer. Loads of vehicles are like, you're not close enough until you have to get it pretty bloody accurate. Again, the loaf's always been an absolute beat. Is like, you can park reasonably far away from like a fuel trailer or whatever. You click attach trailer with a loaf and it yoinks that trailer across the map. Makes it get on the hitch. Whereas yeah, most trucks are really iffy, but I thought that one was going to moan this time. I was like, you can see from how much the trailer has to sort of jump to lock it into place that it actually yeah, was fairly lenient. But you can see now though, it's just not really, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily power as such, it's more grip and possibly weight. I wouldn't say the Bandit is the heaviest vehicle going, which again is like, it's not that hard to drag around on its side, let alone on its wheels. But yeah, in that sense it's probably another one of those vehicles that could do with a bit of weight low down, really, just so it tips less. And again, just get rid of that bloody chassis flex. Blah, can't even talk. I nearly did the first letter the wrong way around. What would that even be? Some fassy schlex. Some, yeah. Ring the doctor. Hello? I have chassis flex. I mean flashy. I can't even fucking say it. But once we're at all those boggy sections, well, again, you can generally tell I'm trying to mash the L1 quite a bit. Tried to get into high there. You can see though, it's lenient in the sense of it's not just automatically kicked me out of it and said stolen and all the rest of it. Did there though. Well, it's weird. It flashed up for like a split second, then it went again. I think aborted mission and went back to auto quickly and then stuck it back in high. But yeah. And at this point, you could tell I was I wouldn't really go as far to say mad. I was just like, okay, I've had enough time on this mission now. I've learnt what I needed to learn. The Bandit's nice enough when it's on its wheels. It's when it tips over that it, yeah. See, again, a couple of times it flashed up with a stalling, but then it goes on its own. It's not. That doesn't usually happen with most vehicles. Here, twice, almost went off to the left. It's one of them, you know, in this game when you steer, sometimes the steering instantly kicks in very sharply. Most of the time it doesn't, but every now and then it does. And yeah, when I swerved right to not go off the left, that little steering input nearly flung me off to the right. And then I panicked and steered to the left and nearly went off there again. See, those patches of water or whatever, they've just sort of been coded where... Yeah, it's pretty guaranteed death usually as far as your high gear goes and all the rest of it. Funnily enough, this vehicle behaves a little bit like, I suppose really, that new Azov Sprinter. Because that Sprinter's not... It's not terrible for tipping, but it's not great. And then when you consider it's not like it's got a sideboard and cargo and a crane sticking up and all the rest of it. I'd imagine in real life they would be weighted a lot lower down. Like, their whole job is to be climbing over rocks and leaning over and all sorts, so... yeah, and then when you hit like certain water and mud sections, particularly on this map, just absolutely automatically like takes all your power. But that's where I think there's certain coding on the map where it, say your revs are at 2000 RPM for the sake of argument, it obviously varies from truck to truck. You hit like those water sections, it's not necessarily the water that's holding you back, it's that section's then coded to drop you down to 1000 revs. So then just as you hit the water, the engine automatically drops revs, which then encourages it to stall in high, and then that's when you lose all your momentum. And yeah, that's the way it seems to work. It's not necessarily that the water itself is holding you back, it's yeah, it's the way it nerfs your rev range while you're in those sections. See now though, sort of we were a little bit further up the hills, not really, well, so as we drive into one, not many boggy sections though, and it actually did let me go in high. It was ticking along quite nicely, even with the trailer and a crane and the loaf. Again, it's within reason, it's about as loaded as you can get a Bandit really. Well, I could fit another loaf on the roof, and I could fit 2 cargo in the sideboard and then just put the loaf on top. Not like I'm bragging or anything, but he is a goddamn professional. In fact, was it not the Bandit? What vehicle was it on Season 4 where the loaf just stuck kind of diagonally to the side of a vehicle? The game tried to tip him off, but the loaf had other plans. It's like limpet loaf. So he just stuck to the side of a vehicle for a while. It's probably still there now. I should go and check at some point. Wouldn't surprise me. It's the sort of thing I would leave there, because I was pretty proud of him for managing that. Yeah, again, this side of the map, would definitely recommend going around, like, you'll see it when like you get to this mission and you draw the line. I could either go up a bit of a narrow, annoying road, that you just have to go over the peak of the, like, the top of the hill, but there's lots of rocks and stuff in the way. It was where, what mission was it? It was when I was dragging the Voron Grad to the warehouse. I was doing that mission where you have to collect the bad take, was it, or something? Yeah, and it kept flinging the loaf off the roof. I was tipping so much on the rocks, like they're just, you can't really help it. The rocks force you to tip a certain amount, and especially with this trailer, it wasn't necessarily the Bandit that worried me, although it did. Yeah, it was the trailer, because we all know this trailer's good for it. I was pretty amazed, to be honest, I actually made it here without the trailer being an issue. Pretty happy though. Another one in the bag. A couple of grand for the mission. Again, it wasn't really that bothered me. It's just now this is a fueling station. It says something in the right in there like, now this is ready for the big race. I keep hearing this big race, so I'm assuming one of the contracts, probably stage 3 or something. There's a, I'm guessing you're gonna have to do like a lap of the whole map, because there's now this and that bridge I did yesterday on the other side. But yeah, anyway, that's about it for today. There's another one in the bag. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's a goddamn horse, and I'll be back soon.